Welcome to Revival Records Podcast. I'm Peyton, one of the co-founders of Revival, as well as a singer, songwriter, and performer who has spent the last 20 years riding the roller coaster, otherwise known as the music business. And on this podcast, I speak to talented artists, producers, DJs, music moguls, songwriters, musicians, basically anyone brave enough or just crazy enough to make the business of music their mission in life. Welcome to Revival Records Podcast number 10. Now today I am thrilled to sit down with one of the UK's top music producers, James F. Reynolds, the talent behind the Revival House project and so many other acclaimed works. And although many of us know the term music producer, I think very few truly understand what that role means or just how many roles are rolled into that title. And producers are often the unsung heroes. They shape the music that we love by often selecting the songs or coordinating the musicians, overseeing the recording sessions, guiding the artists to their best performance possibilities. And then, despite that impact, producers like James, so many others, rarely receive the spotlight, if any. Chances are, if you fall in love with a song or an album, it's the singer or the name of the band that you're likely going to give all the credit to, when in so many cases it's the producer's contribution to the overall process that very well may have played the biggest role in bringing your favorite song or album to life. Interestingly enough, I've worked with a lot of producers, and I've yet to hear a single one of them complain about that. And that goes for our guest today as well, who I've known for more than 2 decades, and whose song credits read like a who's who's list of the industry's biggest names. But for the past couple years, when James Reynolds hasn't been busy mixing a record for BTS or producing an album for Tiny Tempeh or Paloma, he's been pouring hours and himself and his copious talents into sculpting the beautiful sound of Revival House Project. And with the forthcoming release of Revival's 18-track debut album, Dance to the Music, the world is soon going to have 18 more shining examples of why James F. Reynolds is considered to be a true master of his craft, and a name that very much does deserve to be known, celebrated, and revered for the star behind the stars that he is. So on that note, welcome to the podcast, music producer, technician, mixer, musician, dad, friend, and everyone's favorite aristocrat, James F. Reynolds. I'm not going to say on air what the F stands for, but it's wow. After all of these artists that I've been having these podcasts with, to finally get you, who is really one of the main talents at the helm of this incredible undertaking we are calling Revival. And I will just say, to kick off, to give a little context, because nobody wants to have to toot their own horn. No. But you and I met about 20... What? Okay, let's say 2 decades.
We met about 2 hours ago?
2 hours ago. No, it was 2 decades ago, but we were both about... I was 12, and you were 18, because you're obviously a little older. And I really had just kicked off my house music career, and I had only really worked with...
You and me both.
So were you really very much kind of the beginning at that point?
Maybe 2 years in? Not
right,
not
okay.
a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah, I guess I was about 2 years in, because it was probably about 2 years just with Head Candy and doing stuff with Eric Kupper. Yeah, and then I started working with other producers, and then so I was asked to write and do the vocals for various house tracks with various production outfits or various. And somehow I just kept ending up back in the same studio with this guy named James F. Reynolds, who seemed to be doing the production for every dance production, team that was going at the moment. And at one point I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. Wait a minute. So are you really making like every house record, but
felt like it.
They're coming out under...
Literally felt like it.
And you were just being paid to basically be a ghost producer for... We will not mention any names, because then people might question the credibility, and they're all great.
Well, you know the 10,000 hour rule. I racked that one up real quick. I thought, just go in. It was literally a track a day. It was a house record a day for years, maybe 5-6 years. Just
wow.
Monday to Friday in, bang, record. And, you know, a lot of DJs would just drop a pile of records in the studio in the morning and go, we want something that sounds like one
Similar
of
to
these.
that. Yeah.
And then I would trawl through records without wanting to sound old. You then have to take that record or a record you like and maybe sample some drums from the front. So the whole process was a lot longer.
It was a lot longer.
How I knocked out a house record every day, I don't know. But
you're a machine.
Yeah.
That I mean, I knew that right from the beginning. I've worked with 2 producers in my entire 20-year career who I would say are on a level in a similar level in terms of the production that you actually managed to get in the end, but who have just this graft, you know, like, I mean, I've always been amazed by your graft. If it weren't for having to tell you, James, get up, have a cup of tea, move, because you will just sit for hours and hours and hours.
I know. Still to this day, still happens.
I know. I mean, more than ever, you know. So
lunch, what's that?
Yeah. Like,
overrated.
I mean, James, we should eat a sandwich or something. Yeah. So, you know, you put in the time, you put in the effort and the hours into this, and then you kind of transitioned and became, which was very clever on your part, really the producer of much more than house records. You know, you've worked with every name in the business. If you look down the line, the list of all the artists that you've either remixed or collaborated with, it's, let's just say, it's an incredibly impressive list of huge names. So 2 years ago, beginning of the pandemic, my friend Greg Perlman in LA called me and wanted to know if I could help him put together the right people to start putting some great house records together. He needed to find somebody he could work with because he just had this passion and wanted to make great house records. He wasn't happy with the quality of the house music he was hearing. Of course, my first thought was, well, if you've got the budget, I've got the producer for you, because he looks cheap, but he's not cheap.
Like my T-shirt, you said. You weren't going to say anything, were you?
I wasn't. I mean,
I've done it for you, Peyton. I've done it for you.
We're both in gray today.
That's a start.
We're looking a little twinsies. But, you know, but the first person I thought it was you, because I know that, first of all, you also have an enormous amount of experience working with people. Yeah. And, you know, you're not a diva. And you also, you know, you'd be able to bring the quality that he was searching for. But little did I know that 2 years later, 18 records finished on. Can
you believe it?
And we would be at Abbey Road with a 20-voice gospel choir and live bass, live piano, some of the best vocalists either of us have ever heard, making music to actually release and beginning a project that we are both convinced is something quite unlike anything that's out there. It's special. And it has really been just, you know, I mean, you and I have obviously worked together on, you produced my album, Sinners Got Soul Too. And we've worked together on so many projects, but getting to do it with you and getting to be a part of it, it does feel like a gift from a higher place.
Absolutely.
So tell me, I mean, give me a little bit of background, just because, you know, I mean, I know you play the harmonica, you're also a musician.
Yeah.
First and foremost, probably, I assume that's kind of where the love for it came from.
Yeah. It's a weird and slightly strange story, my whole kind of foray into music. And I always played music at school, but I was one of these, my first instrument I learned was piano. And it was a curse and a blessing altogether, because I played by ear a lot of the time.
Right.
So learning to read was a real struggle for me, because I'd sit in the piano lesson and they'd play something and I'd take it away and I'd go, well, I think he went a bit like this, and got quite a lot of it just from listening through to and then I became really lazy as a reader. So yeah, not great.
Well, actually, not such a problem if you're working in house records.
No. Well, no.
I mean, making house records. Yeah.
There's a real plus side to it, which is when you play by ear, you don't really have the constraints of people that have maybe been classically trained and aren't able to sort of go off-piste a bit and just think outside the box. And so that's the way I've always played ever since, you know, and I'm not the best pianist in the world, and there are so many great pianists, and I learned, you know, after doing the hard miles, really, that although I tried to play everything myself, every time I got a keyboard in this that was better than me, I was like, oh shit, that's how you do it. So I've got, you know, I haven't got the ego to go, it's got to be me. I can put the idea down and I can build the basis of the track and know exactly what I want to do, and even guide someone who's better than me, you know. But I think it's always, you kind of learn that with experience.
But don't you think that is, that sort of understanding and acceptance of your own limitations in something is actually a strength?
It is, yeah. And that's something that you get with experience as well.
Yeah,
you know,
not needing to be the best at everything, and knowing what your gifts are.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's strength in seeing that. There's strength in seeing how to put the right people together, which is, you know, why I think part of revival is so special, because we all have our strengths, and you know, we all have our 10,000 hours plus.
We've earned our stripes.
And so in each side of what we're doing at Revival, it's incredible. You know, especially with the creative and the live side of it, you've just done that to death. So you know what you're doing. And, you know, with me and music productions and making house records, it literally is, it's always been a passion. And even though I've gone off and I've done all sorts of different music, you know, working with Paloma or Calvin, or, you know, acoustic records, or, you know, Tiny Tempeh. My first bigger album that I mixed was Tiny Tempeh's Written in the Stars, which is now, I think, a triple platinum record. You know, it's a big record.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot in that space, you know, sort of hip hop and it for a while. But I've always come back to house music. And as you know, house music at the moment is having a huge resurgence in the crossover pop market. It's a bit more commercial, a bit, you know, kind of made for radio, but I know how to do it, you know. And so...
Well, you know how you could do it, you know.
Easy.
One of those
it's
people
easy.
I think could do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm very comfortable making house records, and it's really funny because, you know, a lot of the time I'm just mixing a record, but now with the resurgence of, you know, dance music being such a strong part of, you know, the whole pop world, you know, I'm being asked to produce a lot more and actually mix, just because I know what to do with a record, especially in that genre. But going back to the story, so learned piano at school badly, learned to play harmonica at school probably not so badly. Loved blues, grew up on blues. You know, my mother was a huge blues fan, and
your harmonica playing is impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
You pulled that out of the bag one day, and I was like, what? James F. Reynolds?
Yeah, you know, I'm madly passionate about blues music, and I think a lot of other types of music come from that, really, you know. And it was brilliant because, you know, when I finished school and I was traveling, it's one of those instruments you stick in your pocket, and if you run out of money, you go and play with a band in a bar and you get free drinks all night. Yeah. So it's been brilliant. And
there you go, kids.
To the point where, you know, pretty much...
Life advice.
Yeah.
Want free drinks?
Yeah.
Learn how to play the harmonica.
Brilliant. Yeah. Imagine sort of carting a double bass round to pub nights.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you want to have a bad back for the rest of your life, choose a small instrument.
Yeah, exactly.
You can drink more that way.
So yeah, I had real fun playing that. And then I wasn't going to go into music. It wasn't going to be my thing. I didn't know what my thing was going to be. My career's advice at school was particularly non-existent.
Well, I was going to say, because you come from quite, do we say aristocratic?
Yeah, relatively,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've looked you up. You have titles in front of your name that I'm like, well, it's just a queen to me, but but yes, you are
the Baronet of Woolton.
Is it the
Baronet of Woolton, which is a district in Liverpool, which is a very cool place because some of the Beatles are from there. So I'm very proud to be the Baronet of Woolton.
Yes, I know. I remember asking you, where the hell is? Well, you're like, only Liverpool, the home of the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
But you are, and so I'm curious, like your parents. I mean, because usually when you're raised in that sort of environment, choosing music as a career path is not always shined on. I mean,
no, I guess not. And
were they supportive?
They were. It was on the cusp of. Do you know what? I think by the time I actually decided to do anything, they were supportive.
They're just relieved. Oh my God, we're not going to have to finance him.
What? James isn't going to carry on partying.
Our 40-year-old son still living at home.
It's a bit of a funny one, and I don't want to. I'll probably get now. My parents will listen to this one day, or my dad, bless him, is not around anymore. But my mum might listen to it one day and go, because when I was having fun after school, I went skiing and I met a lovely, lovely woman from Paris, and I was like, how the hell am I going to get to Paris? Oh, I know. I'll tell my parents I actually want to learn something. So I said, can I go to Paris to study French business? They said, well, that's unusual, but yeah, okay. Sure. So I went and partied in Paris for 6 months, didn't learn a thing. And after that, I still didn't know what I was going to do in a career. But when I was just finishing my 6 months in Paris, I snapped my leg in a lift.
Oh God, yeah.
Which was a pretty nasty accident. And you know, a number of operations later back in the UK, and then went back to Jersey, and I had a year of recovery where I couldn't walk. And I was really lucky. We had at our house a beautiful old barn, and in that barn was a grand piano. And I had so much time on my hands, you know, recovering, that I just started playing and playing more and writing piano pieces. And I was like, hey, this is cool. This is fun.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I want to record it. I want to know how to record this. And I bought this little sort of 4-track recorder, you know, really basic with a tape in.
Early.
And then tried to figure out where I'd put a mic on a piano. And I was like, yeah, this is cool, but it doesn't sound great. How can I get this sound better? And then the kind of cog started going. And I was like, do you know what? I really want to know how to record this really well so it sounds great.
Huh.
I was like, I want to go and learn sound engineering.
Wow.
So that was the sudden kind of light bulb moment. And I was like, I'm definitely not a good enough musician to become an artist. So that's not going to happen. Yeah. But I understand music well enough. And I really want to learn, the other side of it. So then I went to university and did sound engineering, you know, and loved it.
So you actually went and studied formally.
Yeah.
Sound engineering.
Yeah.
How many years is that?
It was just a year. I just did a diploma in sound engineering. And
in those days, it would be very different now.
Yeah.
So
and I was at Gateway and learnt on a big, desk. It's in Kingston, and big old SSL desk.
The old when the studio was like the size of a small house.
Absolutely, and there was you were recording to tape and all the rest of it. But I did it and loved it. I met a very dear friend of mine on the course called Matty Schwartz, who's a very well-known producer in the UK. And we became great friends. And then after a year, we finished the course. He went back to Israel. I sort of scrabbled around looking for a job in a studio somewhere, and eventually got a job in a tiny little studio in Hammersmith called the Hit House. And I was like, the guy it was a wealthy gym owner that fancied dabbling in music, and he'd built this studio and wanted to see if he could make a success. And so I was his sort of first engineer he had into the studio.
It's quite a good name, the Hit House.
Yeah, the Hit House.
I like that.
And I guess he wanted to do a Stock Aitken and Waterman. That was the kind of rage at the time. And just make this sort of mass-produced music and see what he could do with it. And then I called up my friend Matty, who was back in Israel, and said, hey, I've got you a job, come down. So he came back to the UK, and we spent probably 2 years in the studio just churning out music, cheesy pop records, but making some dance records as well, actually, in the early days of making, actually, do you know, one of my first ever sessions in there was with Farley Jack Master Funk. Do you remember?
Of course.
So with him, and he came in with his MPC, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And had to kind of learn on the job, which was amazing. And then, of course, there used to be a club around the corner called the Hammersmith Palais. So we got to a stage where, Matty and I didn't really sleep. There was a vocal booth with a shag pile carpet, and we'd take it in turns to do our stint of sleeping there. But we were just working around the clock. Excuse me. And then we'd make a song and we'd take it to one of our mates who was DJing at the Hammersmith Palais. So we'd finish it, just take it round and say, maybe put this on. And we'd watch the crowd and see what was going on, go, oh no, that's not working. Back to the studio. Just change this, tweak this.
That is the old school way of doing it.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary about, the Swedish producers that, because, Sweden has pumped out so many hits. And that's that famous studio. And they were saying at that time, they would literally give the record to DJs to play and then see what was working. It was like you could road test.
Oh, amazing. What an amazing opportunity to be able to do that.
I don't think that happens so much anymore in that way. Yeah.
It's so kind of destined what sets are going to be to a degree. You know, it's what's on your USB
by the time
stick.
the DJ gets it, it's done. It's not like, here, well, let us know, and then we're going to go back and fix a few things. Yeah,
we had this amazing opportunity to go around and trial tracks, and then I moved to Brick Lane, and started really kind of, just like we were saying earlier, just making house record after house record. I was working with a distribution company down there who had a number of acts. I think you've sung on a few of those records. And that's where we first met, wasn't it? Brick Lane.
You're right. It was Brick Lane.
It wasn't here. It was Brick Lane.
No, you're right.
That's the weird thing, actually, that this podcast studio we're sitting in is where we made a lot of our records together.
Oh, yeah. This break. I remember coming here.
Yeah. This was my recording studio.
So it was actually this part of it.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm sitting in the history of my own brilliance.
Yeah, you are. Basically. if that's what you call it.
That's not what my husband usually calls it. All right, let's bring it up to modern times, because now here we are, 2022.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic.
Yeah.
Weird couple of years for everybody.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like what you said about that story of having had suffered, and you talked to me before about that accident in France.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty hardcore what you went through. But, it's so often the case that these things, and like the pandemic itself, where something that
something
just
good
so
comes
horrific,
out of something bad.
My grandmother used to always say it. She said, if you look hard enough, you'll always find something. The most horrific situations or experiences will often yield something really amazing. Yeah. And sometimes it takes a while to see that or to understand it. But in your case, I mean, if it hadn't been for that accident, who knows if you would be sitting here with an extraordinary career, that you've been in this business for years. I mean, there's a lot of wannabe artists, producers out there, but you have grafted, and you are, you're an incredibly, accomplished producer, remixer.
Thank you.
Who's been doing this and been at the forefront of it for many, many years. That's not an easy thing to do and to sustain.
No, it's very tough.
Every element of this career, this artist life is not easy, but you've done it. So anyway, we should probably write a little thank you note to the hotel or wherever it was where you lost half your leg almost in an accident.
Yeah, that's the place where I lost my leg, not my toes. That was another one.
Yeah. Basically, you're a walking disaster. But all right,
I've contained it all to the right hand side, so it's fine. My left side's just fine.
Well, listen, we've been, both of us, in the biz now for a number of years. As Mary Pierce said, we got our spurs.
Yeah.
But now we are venturing on something that feels quite extraordinarily different, I think, for both of us to be involved in this. And I want to hear from your side, because I know, this also having, even with all the experiences and all the artists you've worked with and all the records you've made, this feels new.
Mental. It's mental. I've made house records for so many years, but I have never had the opportunity to make records at this level, at this production level. It's an incredible opportunity that I never saw coming. It came from it all developed in an amazing way.
Very organic way.
It was hugely organic. So, when we first started doing this with Greg, he was making it for fun, and we weren't going anywhere near the depth that we've gone with the new records. It was a bit of fun. He wanted some music to listen to and love in LA. 2 years later, we sit down and we have a conversation. And go, actually, should we take this to a whole new level? And Greg was like, hell yeah.
But it really. Do you remember it flipped for Greg when he could see the potential of it making a difference in other people's lives? Yeah. Greg is so programmed.
Yeah.
His humanitarian sort of side is and for me, I really saw that shift when he saw because he does so much work helping people.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, this could help people in lots of ways.
Yeah.
The artists who are involved, the people who are getting to consume the music. And when he could see that, I felt like it went,
But also just help people have a lot of fun.
Exactly.
When we were chatting ages ago, he was saying, I just love nothing more than stand at the back of the club and watch people enjoying themselves, and having fun.
Greg gets off. He gets off.
Yeah. And if he can do that with music that he's helped make, then what a bonus and what a thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
And so when we decided to sort of go in and go, right, okay, we're going to now make some, based on gospel with a kind of gospel tinge, but classic house records, but really musical, and get away from the loop-based house that we've all been, accustomed to for many years, and myself included. And the reason for that usually is budget more than anything, and what people now are attuned to listening to. So, it is a bit of a bolt out of the blue when you play this record. They're like, wow, I haven't heard something like this.
It is budget, but it's also in a way, I think in music you're often kind of prescribed what it is. If a label will tell you, well, we want this sort of vibe or we want that vibe. And, it's also about the trends or trying to kind of, trying to create something that is going to be targeted to a very specific demographic. I guess not only have we not been constrained by the budgets, we also have been constrained by the sort of need to try to fit this music into a box.
I think we've all spent so many years trying to fit music into these different pigeonholes, and the freedom to just go, fuck it, let's make music that everyone will enjoy.
Yeah.
Just make great bloody music, and it's just incredible. And it was our time at Abbey Road was quite emotional, I think, for all of us, because it was just so overpowering.
What a trip!
So overpowering. Everyone felt it. The choir being in tears and all the rest of it. Just so powerful, and that's the amazing thing about music, and the fact that we're developing this into not just a label and putting the records out, but doing the podcast, shining a light on the people who've been so instrumental in making this incredible music. I'm just one part of the bigger picture, and then taking it live and then having a lot of fun. I mean, I'm in.
Well, it's great. It's great. We're all definitely in, and I think it's nice for both of us at this stage in our careers to have a project where not only is it kind of bringing a lot of the pieces of the different sort of disparate pieces of our career and our lives together and drawing on those experiences, but it's also renewing this sort of faith or optimism in a way that I think you get a little bit beaten down in music. It's it's a bit of a slog, and you get used to getting knocked back, and you get so used to things not actually working out the way you were hoping, and then so you stop expecting things to kind of go the way that you'd hoped. And I think I see in you, in fact, I'm also in some ways using you as a guidepost, because I see your genuine optimism and excitement about what's coming. And I think it's important. We've got to manifest good things, and it's like I'm reprogramming to think, actually this is going to be huge. And if somebody like James F. Reynolds thinks that, with all the experience you've had, it must be true.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, although I've made thousands of records, like I said, I've never made stuff like this, and I've never made songs to this level, house music to this level, and I listen back to it and I'm like, oh, it's just so nice, and I'm not being egotistical. I just really enjoy listening to it. And thus far, when I've played it to anyone, canvas or anyone, they're all like, I love this. This is great. This is really fun, and
1 year from now,
I think everyone wants fun at the moment.
Everybody needs fun all the time, but 1 year from now, if you could say to me, what's your vision for this? Where are we 1 year from now?
So 1 year from now, I personally think, and this is me kind of half with my industry head on and half with me as a creative, I feel like Revival will grow through the live events, and the live events will feed back into the music, and then people will become familiarized, and then the music will start taking off. But there is the whole music world is awash with music. I think it's 60,000 releases a week. So making noise in that kind of environment is very, very difficult. Tough. The amazing thing we've got is we've got a Greg on board, who's not in the music industry, so he's perfectly capable of thinking completely outside the music industry box, because he doesn't have that, traditional approach. It's not like, well, let's just go to promo and, give it to the tastemakers.
And he's not in it for that reason.
And actually, what I love about this is we're not, I said this to you, many weeks ago, I'm not really bothered. It'd be great to get some great DJ feedback, but it's not the be all and end all at all with what we're doing. I think I'll get more excited if Camilla, my wife, is sending in, well, she would send in good feedback. She's my wife, but an equivalent of Camilla, my wife. I'd actually
like to see her feedback. Camilla, can you just let us know what pseudonym you're sending feedback under? That would be great.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But, people in their homes are sending feedback going, wow, we just put this on at a party. We put the Revival playlist on at the party and we had a great time. And that will be a real sense of achievement.
Let's face it, there are a lot of people out there, they don't want to necessarily be in a dirty old stinky club at 3 a.m. anymore.
No.
But they still want to dance and celebrate life. I don't think the older you get, the less you want to, enjoy life and music. And if you have a love for dancing and celebrating in that way and just good music, that doesn't just go away as you get older. You just want to do it in a different space, perhaps.
That's it.
Maybe you want to do it at a different time of day and maybe with a few less drugs. Not necessarily. It depends. But you just want to have a little gin and tonic at 2 p.m. on a Sunday.
That's it. I'm so excited. A year from now, I am so excited. I'm so excited to see, the reaction of people in parties.
Yeah.
The reaction of people in their houses, reaction of people in their kitchens, every reaction, I think, I can't wait to see, I can't wait to see. And the footage we have is just beautiful. There are so many,
amazing.
There are so many, when you feel like something's meant to be and all the pieces just fit together quite naturally, and they have with the whole process, from the photographer, we already had that. We knew who the right person was.
Yeah.
You and I are old friends and we've always gotten, amazingly. And we cover off 2 areas of what's needed within the whole business. So which is great. And Zander is incredible and driven and passionate and, listened to house music since he was 12 or something, so everyone is hugely passionate about it and passionate about making a difference. Like you said, making a difference to everyone else's lives, because you and I especially have seen how hard it is for the singers and the musicians to make a living, a life out of this.
And to survive, you know. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's, the music obviously itself is different. It's almost, as Greg Gould was just saying, almost a genre in itself. It's almost like creating almost a new genre. And I was like, wow, because we haven't reinvented the wheel. It's house, but there is something about it that's unique. Yeah. But what I think really defines this whole thing, even more than the music being so incredible, is the intention behind it. And I don't know a lot of projects where that is the case, where all of us, there isn't ego. We have stars on this, project, and in our own way, we have had careers that, have allowed us to, to feel like we've succeeded as well. But there's no ego. There's none of that crap.
No.
And we're all in it to actually do something extraordinary. And it's not about filling our coffers with money, and it's not about winning awards or being famous. It's about bringing something really beautiful to people's lives, whether it's in their car or in their kitchens or on a dance floor.
Yeah.
And sharing what we get to do for a living with them.
Well, exactly. If you can have fun, like we've been having, that in itself is incredible as a payment. It's just like,
absolutely. And it starts with us.
Yeah.
And so it's important I think everything always, it's from the top down, if everybody's got the right heart and intention, it's like you can feel that. It kind of comes across.
Yeah.
And, and so it's, hey, look, it's been an extraordinary experience working on this with you, as it always has been, getting a chance to collaborate with you. But,
likewise,
I think, we have a lot to look forward to.
I'm so excited.
Well, James F. Reynolds, and we will not say what the F stands for, but no, it stands for fun. Because
it does. How did you know? It's a weird name, I know, but I like it.
You are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you're also just an incredibly great guy. And
thank you.
And
you're a great guy too, Peyton.
Stop it. But your productions, I have to say, you're getting better. I mean, like it's taken a while, but it's just as well that you stuck with it. And
I think in another 10 or so years,
another 10, 15 years. Listen, you
great.
You just might be good at this.
Thank
but let's look back in 10 or 15 years and
see if I've improved.
See if you've improved. No, you're a legend, and
thank you.
Yeah, Revival Records
always up,
taking over the world very soon. Revival is coming. Hashtag join our revival.
Oh no, watch the space.
Hashtag
join
it. Come on, those are so much better. But yeah, let's try that one more time. I love that. Revival is coming.
Yeah.
Hashtag join our revival.
Revival.